Roundtable discussion. I am Cyphus. I'm sitting here with the ever ecstatic every time he hears that little Wazoo.
Good morning, Vietnam.
I am also joined by the great one with two B's in his name. That's Flubb.
Hey, geez, I just died as I said, hey. I'm sorry. Hey,
also
everybody.
Good start.
Oh, and you guys know him. You love him. He's everybody's favorite whiteboard review podcaster, Ursinity.
Big fan. Hello. I am here to talk about whiteboards. I've got a beautiful Expo 16 by 20 whiteboard to my right. It has a calendar written on it.
You don't
I've
really
not
need
used
to
it
sell
in
the
like a year.
whiteboard, though. Like, you go and get a whiteboard if you need a whiteboard. Like, all the specifics and stuff. I don't know. I don't know about this.
It is super white. It does not smudge. So I've used even the garbage like CVS brand markers on it, and I'm solid.
DotP has money for everything these days, folks. Now we have a whiteboard podcast.
When you heard it here, Ursi prefers it if you're super white. That's what
just
I got.
only
That's
if you're
what I got from it.
inanimate.
Blackboards are a thing of the past. It seems like whiteboards are in every single class now.
No, smartboards.
Yeah, now it's smartboards, I guess.
I hate
whiteboards when I was in
smartboards.
high school.
God, I've taught classes on smartboards before, and it is not the best. Like, it's great when it works, and it like ruins everything when it doesn't. So
I guess I've never seen a smartboard.
it's like they have them in most of the schools around me. Granted, I live in like a very highly taxed area, but if basically it's just like a like an iPad or something, but like humongous, and it's like the size of a whiteboard, but it's like a computer screen, and it's tied to the computer and a projector, and so you can like make a PowerPoint and then put it on the computer, and then it projects it onto the smartboard, and then you can like draw on the PowerPoint with like smartboard markers. And it's supposed to make things easier, but in reality, you have computer glitches, or you give them to like 50, 60-year-old teachers that don't know how to use technology, and then
aren't willing to learn the new technology. Sure.
And take a dry erase to it. And
honestly, I prefer dry erase, but they have different values. But this is actually legitimately going to become a smartboard whiteboard podcast.
That's right. Wow.
And I would be the only one, unless we have any teachers that listen to the show, that would be remotely interested in it.
Well, in fact, today what we're going to discuss is the latest 6.88e patch. So my first question before we start getting into it line by line, and I just want to go around and get everybody's kind of thoughts on this. I was disappointed to see this patch. I guess I was kind of expecting, I feel like we spent a lot of time in 6.88, and I know that it's exceptionally balanced, or at least kind of that's been the feeling with all the pro events, featuring a large number of, or a wide variety of heroes. I mean, hell, we got a Lena at the end of MDL. In a support role, but we still got one. So maybe it makes sense that we're kind of hanging around in 6.88, but I guess, were any of you disappointed similarly, or do you like the patch? I'll start with you, Wazoo.
Okay. I like these little changes that they bump back and forth. Like an easy one to mention is the illusion change, the change to do more damage on buildings. It just shows that they're doing
Less
the ice
damage on
frog
buildings.
method.
Less damage.
Less damage, really.
Yeah, that was a nerf to illusions across the board.
They also nerfed illusions last time too, as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like they just don't want that to be good anymore. Is what I
well,
get
it's
out
just
of
being
that.
used. It's still being used. It was still used in MDL right before
But it's still
6.88e.
good, right? But at points like those Drow illusion drafts with the Shadow Demon and stuff, were just wrecking at TI and stuff. So shows that they're thinking about a new patch, and I like it for that reason. All these little lettered patches have never been anything more than slight balance changes that roll into a bigger patch later on. So hopefully this means that next we're going to be seeing 6.89.
But I mean, is there really any reason? And I guess Flubb, I'll go to you for this one. Is there any reason to have a 6.89 if 6.88 is going well? Should we not just anticipate the next patch as like a 6.88F?
No, that's not going to happen. Like, there's always something more that you can add to Dota. There's always something greater, whether it's a new item, new hero, or just like redeveloping a concept of a hero. Let's look at Ricky, for example. Ricky had not been touched for, I don't know how long, but they redefined the character, kind of moved things around a little bit, made his ultimate actually worth something that's not just, okay, I buy dust and then you lose. So there's a lot of things that can be done with the game, whether it's redesigning a hero or whether it's just getting a new item that makes a hero viable with their current style. I think that there's always something striving to do something better, and there's still heroes out there that exist right now that, yes, they're played in the meta, but they're not as even as they can be. And that's what Dota's always striving to do, and that's why I love the game so much, is that it always strives to be the most even game that you possibly can be. And yeah, you can do these like minor tweaks, but there's still things that you can't say everything in the game, every ability is a perfect even level keel, because all the abilities are different, and that's what Ice Frog is also trying to do. Is he's also trying to phase out the idea of, okay, this guy has sheep and this guy has sheep, so let's make it like sheep that does extra magic damage, or just kind of makes it a little bit different than the other guy, so that you're not just having a different skin that basically fills the same role.
That's an interesting point. I'll go on that and then let Ursi finish, of course, out this intro. It's very interesting to see how distinguished heroes can get in different ways now compared to how they could just when I started playing Dota. And I mean that by like getting the Hyperstones to get the Moon Shard for the more attack speed, or the Dragon Lance for the more range, and all this other stuff that you couldn't increase that was kind of very capping for the hero has been lifted in that way. And I feel like this patch is doing it even better, but it's also trying to balance those nuanced things that can just, screw your draft entirely just by having those on your team.
Ursi, what are your general thoughts about 688E?
I like the patch overall. There were a couple points where I was disappointed. Not by what was done, but what was not done. I was surprised that Iron Talon still has not been nerfed in like whatever all of 6.88. It has not been nerfed despite being like such a ruining item for the game in many people's opinion.
And that's another one of those capping things I'm talking about.
It makes the game less skilled.
Yeah,
honestly,
definitely.
It makes the game stupid easy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got to be careful how I word this. So I've been playing a lot with Grandma Ralph, with the girlfriend, and she's fallen in love with Wraith King, and because of Roland, she keeps wanting to go to the jungle, and because she can PvE there as opposed to PvP. And
Yeah.
and she can kind of and I have to be like, okay, so now's when you stop farming and you come help. But she picks up Iron Talon, and it definitely, like, I mean, her farm coming out of the jungle it's a little behind because she fucks up stacks even still. And I know that she's not choosing maybe like the most efficient pathing that she could to go from camp to camp.
You don't really understand
like,
what efficiency means at that level
yeah,
of play.
but I mean,
like your first several hundred hours or whatever.
She still comes out of the jungle at 10 minutes with a blink dagger, or well, not a blink dagger. She's like blade mail and
Treads
at least, and can handle getting involved in a fight. Like, is decently equipped to come and get involved, at least at that skill level.
Yeah, not to get on like an Iron Talon tangent, but I will say, while I will absolutely 100% stand by that claim that it makes the game require less skill, it also, one of the big reasons why we have such a varied hero pool that is available and like perfectly good in the meta is because of Iron Talon enabling a lot of offlaners that would not have otherwise been good offlaners to be offlaners. And same thing, like, we have a lot of opportunities for junglers that you would not have had otherwise because of Iron Talon. So it does make the hero pool that's accessible much more robust. At the same time, it still is a stupid item that is just like, oh, okay, yeah, it makes jungling easy. Okay.
But it
Like
also
Dota,
gives you that great fallback. You know what I mean? Like, anytime you're struggling in a lane, anytime a lane gets really wrecked, you have the opportunity to grab that Iron Talon, dip into your jungle, dip into the enemy jungle, and just farm the hell out of it, and you can kind of fight your way back in.
It's the working class's Midas, pretty much. It's like you still got to do a bit of work, but
it's a poor man's Midas.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, Ursi, I'll let you continue right after this, and then I'll just you would never have thought something like that was possible starting Dota, or that you'd be able to increase attack speed or make jungling super efficient. And I remember when you would just kind of get screwed by camps sometimes. And it's like the Talon is kind of an insurance plan, I guess, to make that not happen, is their mindset, not make it so unfair in that sense.
yeah, I mean, and again, this is my last comment, then we can move on, but my primary qualm with it, I suppose, is largely because I'm a support player, and it makes being a support and successfully and being good at the game and zoning well much less valued, because it's like, oh, okay, I zoned the Slardar, I wrecked him in lane, I did my job really well, and then he just doesn't care because he's just going to go jungle and he's going to have equivalent farm, if not better farm. And like, it's just, the item makes so much of laning phase easy or completely negligible, right? Like, you know, on an offlaner nowadays, you can just do whatever you want. And it's like, oh, okay, my lane's not going well, they tri-laned me, I'm just going to go jungle, screw it, whatever. They don't have the supports to roam into my jungle, so, like, what are they going to do? They're going to have to commit so much if they want to obstruct me. And, like, yeah, sure, the carry's going to farm, but my carry's also farming, so whatever. Anyway, I was disappointed that Underlord didn't get nerfed, and the key thing about 6.88E, yes.
So last week, for Wazoo and for those who may have missed it, we had quite the discussion here about whether or not Underlord is OP.
Yeah.
And, Flubb falls on the, no, he's just a good, well-balanced hero. And Ursi says literally every ability he has is overpowered.
I stand by that. The other big thing about this patch that we'll notice as we go over it is it's almost entirely nerfs or buffs that are worded as nerfs, which we'll get into later on. But yeah, it's all nerfs. So all the heroes that were not getting picked, they're not going to be picked like at a higher rate now because they didn't get buffed. So like Lina, for example, with her like abysmal pick rate and especially as a support, despite the fact that I've now been training some Lina support builds and a good amount of team practice that I think are legit, but those heroes like Jakiro and Lina and Visage did not get touched at all. And these buffs were not significant enough to other heroes to bring those bad heroes into meta. So that's a key point of this patch, right?
Yeah,
is that it's only nerfs or like side grades.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that was immediately what I noticed when I pulled this thing up, and it was just like, God, did anybody get buffed? Yeah. Did anything really get buffed? Because Omni slightly,
because he needed it.
Yeah, he sure did. Although I mean, there was a slight nerf along with it, right? The cap point increase.
We'll get into it once we get to the specific patch notes.
Okay, so let's just kick it right off. The first thing that pops up, Dragonlance strength reduced from 14 to 13. Let's Wazoo, what do you think that means?
It's obvious, but they're just kind of like pulling an ice frog, and just they think the item's in a good place, but they know it's really good for the value, and so they're just going to dial it back a bit, see how it is. If it's still too good, they'll dial it back a bit. I doubt it's ever going to see that high of a strength ever again, however, that it was at pre this patch.
Yeah. Let's go, Flubb. Thoughts on the Dragonlance nerf?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, the nerf is, with these small nerfs, it's not really much to like plan out with what their thoughts are in their head, especially with like stats going from like 1 to 2, 1 to 2 less or 1 to 2 more. It's just the basic idea that like if something is giving you a lot of stats or something is like worth the money stat wise, you don't want to have a situation where you have like 6 of them on people. Because I think I talked about it a little bit last week on Try Our Tuesday, but we were talking about Dragonlance, and you know there's that one player, I'm blanking on his name.
Abed. Also Abed. Like all the top tier Meepo players, not just him.
Yeah, and like I hate that, but I realize that it is good now, and people have talked me into it. But I still hate that concept of just because an item has value within its price, it doesn't really give you anything else besides the stats, and it's really annoying to see an item that is just bought constantly just so that they have like quote unquote the best stat item in the game.
Yeah. So we don't think that this will be picked up any less, except for maybe that it's. I mean, do you think it's nerfed enough that you're going to see those Meepo builds go away?
No,
probably not.
Meepo's
I mean, it's only with strength.
Meepo's also like an outlier, right? Because like one of the big Meepo builds is building like 4 E-Blades, right? Just because the hero is so fundamentally like weird that Meepo is kind of an outlier. But I think you're absolutely right that the heroes that were buying Dragonlance are not going to suddenly stop buying Dragonlance. They're just a little worse off now. And that's like kind of the best way to tune down these type of items. Also, it only nerfs strength, right? So you're still getting 14 agi. so it's still getting the offensive capability. And I think they're kind of narrowing it down into an item that is focused on the offensive potential of additional damage from agility, because like there are no strength heroes that buy this item.
Right. And
then
that's an important thing that you just said there, I think, because it's like they're trying to dial it back and show what heroes it should be built for more so. And so
It's
maybe you won't be picking it up on, heroes that you wouldn't otherwise now. But,
yeah, it's like when drums was super good, right? It just gave you everything. So like, why wouldn't you build drums? And Dragonlance is like that right now. Like, it just gives you so many stats, and it is really strong in that mid game. And the game is now in a meta game where dominating the early to mid game and like pushing real hardcore at like 20 minutes is a very successful strategy. And Dragonlance just synergizes super well with that, and with a lot of the popular heroes. So it's a good nerf, but it's not super significant.
All right, I'm gonna just ask Ursi about this next one. Infused raindrops cooldown reduced from 4 to 6.
It was not a big enough nerf.
Increased from 4 to 6. Not a big enough nerf. Oh.
It's so situationally. Also, raindrops got buffed against Shadow Demon. I'll bring that up too. Because Shadow Demon, his poison now until level 4 is not dealing 50 damage, and it takes 50 damage to trigger raindrops. So raindrops are now better against Shadow Demon in the early to like very early game. Anyway, raindrops, I think this is you could consider it a situational buff, where if you're getting them for the value of the mana regen, you're going to be losing them more slowly, potentially. And you're going to be losing less stacks. So it's a welcome change, I guess. I don't know. I still think, there's a good reason why you see them on like every hero at like high levels of play. Like the item is just really, 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 really good.
Yeah,
especially against certain heroes, which is my primary qualm with it as a biased Lina player.
Sure, fair enough. So you don't think we're going to see Lina come back just based off of this?
No. Like I said, I've been play testing some Lina builds, and she's not complete garbage. She's just worse than everybody else at her job.
Yeah.
Unless you're like,
I think the best way that they can actually make raindrops like at a good viable point where like people will necessarily stop buying them every game is like having them at like 10 seconds for a cooldown. You should be able to like only get like one buffer if you're like out of position in like a team fight to be able to stop that. Having it like 4 or 6, there's a chance, especially with having that ability to reduce the damage from the first hit, that it'll activate again. And that having that twice shouldn't be a thing in a combat situation, in my opinion. I think it should be an item that, okay, they smoked on you and they got like the initial stun. If you had a TP in with a support, there's a better chance of you staying alive because of that situation than it is being like, okay, this will save you twice in a team fight.
Yeah, it's just a bit too much right now. Even still, it's so good that you just always get them in certain situations, and they are always beneficial in certain lanes, and that's something that kind of takes the Dota out of Dota, But I don't know. I don't have much to say that you guys haven't.
All right, Flubb, tell me why you think it's cool that illusion attack damage was reduced against buildings, or rather, the illusion attack damage reduction against buildings was increased from 25 to 30%.
I think it should be way more. I still think that, and I stand by that. I hate how the game has become a part where people can just like send their illusions to attack towers. I think that's a great strategy. And I think when it hits the hour mark, that it should be able to have that situation when illusions have a bunch of items behind it with the heroes. But I think that that's one of the dumbest things about Shadow Demon. I think that the poison was pretty crazy, but I think the illusions that it makes right now is what's the problem with the hero. And I feel like that they're lessening something else that makes the hero more overpowered to begin with. Or not overpowered, because I'm a very firm stance of like nothing's like truly overpowered unless you came from like Han or League of Legends, and then they will know that pain. But the thing is like I think that illusion should probably almost be like at like 40, maybe even 50% damage reduction.
Wow,
I agree. I'm pretty anti-illusion, despite being a Shadow Demon player. I'm very against any mechanic in Dota where it's a specific ability or a thing like illusions that it has effect over many heroes and many different items and abilities. But I dislike anything that you can do with no cost to yourself. That is my opinion. That's why I didn't like Arc Warden, and I still don't like Arc Warden. It's that, and some people use this argument against Naga for similar reasons, where if you can do stuff and cost nothing, it costs nothing, and you're not like you're not offering anything up, like you're not putting yourself in danger, you're not doing anything, and you still are getting things out of it, potentially lots of things, depending on your hero and depending on how much farm you have with illusions, is very like boring and is not a fun mechanic. It's a good way to win games, but like you should always be risking something, like whether it's just spending mana or spending health or putting yourself out of position. So I don't really like illusion builds. That being said, they're really good. So obviously, like play them, win your games. But I'm pretty anti-illusion too.
Yeah, no, it's really annoying to see. I'll tell you the most annoying thing to see was at TI when we were seeing the Kunkka with the X marks with Manta with Shadow Demon bullshit, where basically you'd pop up there, the X marks would be thrown on you, the Shadow Demon would create the illusions, you'd pop your Manta, then you come back and, now there are 4 AMs up there, now there are 4 Drow up there.
Yeah, it was Drow.
And, like now there are 4 X hero up there just wrecking your tower, and but nobody's at risk. Everybody's hanging back. Like, I mean, it led to some of the most, it was well executed, it was very precise, but it's
a phantom army though, and it just feels like meh. And you're right, it is not a fun thing to do. It's
it was
like
boring to watch.
Cheesy. Yeah, it's pretty cheesy. But the reason I was confused earlier is because I just was skimming these. I didn't really have time, and the wording of it was very interesting to me. The damage reduction was increased, and I thought I just read increased from 30 to 40 or whatever. But the damage reduction itself was increased. So they're not actually nerfing the damage the illusions are doing, because they already did that.
Right. They're just nerfing the damage they're doing against buildings.
Yeah, they're saying,
which is also kind of annoying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, right? Is sure, if heroes are out of position and they get picked off by the illusions, that's one thing. But being able to be stationary and just kind of slow siege with that stuff, it's not Dota to me. So, I mean, it was cool to see some of those drafts in the International, but I'm glad it's kind of getting more.
Well, and I'll say, like, and I know I'm just harping on MDL because it's like the first big event I've watched in a while, but the illusion strategies were still there. They weren't there as much as they were at TI, but they were definitely still there. And it was, those were the boring games to watch, if I'm being honest. Like, those were the games I didn't give 2 shits about, where it's like, okay, so I'm going to watch this Kunkka fucking X marks that bastard over and over and over again, and just 4 AMs and 4 Drow just wreck a tower. That's what I'm going to see repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun Dota. Even if it's good Dota, it's not fun Dota, like at a very basic level.
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about the Diffusal Blade, and we can, if we got to get into it, we got to get into it, but this didn't seem like a huge nerf to me. Maybe for Ricky is the only thing that, like, from my pubs really popped into my brain. Would this kind of suck?
It's an Omni buff.
Oh, and an Omni buff. Wow, yeah, I didn't think about that. Diffusal Blade cooldown reduced from 2 to 4. Increased from 2 to 4. Jesus. And
it was nerfed. A lot of these nerfs you have to look through and contextualize by the changes they've had in previous, like 6.88D and 6.88C. And Diffusal Blade, after being turned to having no cooldown, then had a 1-second cooldown, then had a 2, and then now has a 4. And it might have actually just been 0 and then 2 and then 4. But regardless, it's had a continual moving back of the cooldown. And so, yeah, this is definitely an Omni buff, which Omni, as we all know, has, like a 61% win rate in every bracket right now. So
yeah.
That was really my takeaway from this entire patch, but especially this patch note.
I play the shit out of Omni lately. It's anytime I'm forced into that support role, I'll pick up the Omni, and yeah, for just that reason. I'm glad to see. I'm glad that you reminded me that that's an Omni buff.
I also think that sorry about that, Cyphus, but I also think that when I'm looking at this, it also kind of puts a sense of doubt, which I like. I like when it forces items force people and players to, like, look at should I use this item in this way at this point, and really make a decision at a split second notice. Just like, when you use a BKB, sometimes people don't use their BKB correctly because it'll go on cooldown for so long, and obviously they won't get that buff. The same thing kind of breaks in this situation. I didn't like it a lot whenever it had 0, because the potential of you using it obviously on yourself to take away a silence and then using it to slow someone down is like, okay, that's like a guaranteed kill pretty much in that scenario. It's when it's increased to 4 seconds is a long time in a team fight, so using it to purge a silence on yourself isn't like 100% you need to do this every time type situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's better for the game when there's not like a clear-cut situation that like this is how it has to be done in every scenario.
Fair enough. All right, I'm gonna try to move us through this because we're like 25 minutes into the episode and we're like 5 into it. I suspected this might happen to us.
Well, we also talk about stuff beforehand, like whiteboards.
Yeah, fair enough. So we've got OD with a base armor reduction of 1.5. I was kind of sad to see this and I was talking with Roland about it on the Monday episode, but it was fascinating to see OD kind of like fade and then come back all within the same patch.
Yeah, he is like. I know you guys were saying that you hadn't been seeing him recently, but I've been seeing him for probably like the last month. He's come back, and I see him all the time. And if you like go to observe like all the like really high MMR games, he's in like not necessarily every single one, but he's in a ton of them. And I hate this hero. Also, he's crazy good, and he's crazy good against a lot of different things. And the W builds that people are doing now, like that ability is just so strong. And this hero, I 100% agree with this nerf. I think his like laning phase is just too good, because like he's so hard to gank with his super high armor, and the fact that he can imprison someone for like 3 seconds at level 1 or 2.5 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I played a game with him today, and I felt like I felt it.
Yeah,
early on,
good.
It sucked. All right, I'm moving us. I'm going to keep moving us. Shadow Poison, initial damage reduced from 50 to 25, 34, 42, 50. So now, if you want that 50 damage, you got to level all the way up.
Yeah.
I mean, you were mentioning this kind of how it interfaced with raindrops. Any more than anybody wants to add here?
No, I'm good.
You're virtually always maxing it anyway. At level 7, and some games like you'll get a couple points in disruption instead, but this is just like it makes him a little worse at like level 1 and level 3. But you'll feel it for like level 1, but overall, like it's not a huge deal.
Fair
it
enough.
is just a raindrop thing primarily that it makes me think of.
So Flame Break cooldown reduced from 14 to 17. Who has some thoughts about Flame Break here?
I do for sure, because I've actually been playing Bat a lot lately on Ham. That's actually kind of a nerf that people would probably go quick by, but there's like 14 seconds is a pretty decent chunk of time to begin with, and going up to 17 is actually quite a long time, and you kind of need to use not only that ability, but your flame trail or flame tail very sparsely, and try to like time it correctly, because you're not going to be able to have that ability once again. So it's like he has one spammable ability, and that's pretty much it now. I know 14 to 17 doesn't seem that long, but it is. And having that ability to be able to break a TP from a long ways away at a quicker cooldown is really nice.
Yeah. It definitely, well, in my mind, whenever I see changes like this too, I think, how many fights do I see? Like, you almost never start a fight with Flame Break. So you got to factor in, like, let's say you're using Flame Break 5 seconds into a fight. How many fights go 19 seconds with the previous cooldown versus how many fights now go to, like, 23 seconds or 24 seconds, whatever the math was, because I forget what number I started with. But that's a big difference, right? Like, I can easily see a fight lasting 15 to 20 seconds, but fights that last longer than 20 seconds are like long fights. So that's kind of how I thought about it in my head.
So that we saw Drow base damage reduced by 4. Do we even really need to talk about this? Like,
Nope, it was needed.
She's impossible to last hit with now. If you force a Drow under tower, she just can't last hit. Like, she's just screwed.
Is Quell an always pickup now? Because you saw people kind of getting that before anyway. Sometimes, even in pros, you'd see them pick up a Quell on the drought. What do you think of that? Is that good or bad?
Well, I mean, Quell now is giving you less from just because she does 4 less damage, so you're getting like, whatever it is, like 0.7 less of a damage from Quell. But or not even that, like what is it, like 1.5 or something? I don't know. I'm not the carry player, but Quelling Blade on ranged heroes, like we used to see Quelling Blade Medusa all the time. I don't know if it's mandatory, but if you go like Iron Talon on her, and then you can really like either beat a Darkseer if he's pressuring you, or you can just go to jungle earlier and really abuse that, even as a carry. But it's just like a nerf, right? It's just to make her like first few levels harder.
Yeah, fair enough. So torrent damage, little Kunkka nerf here, reduced from 120, 180, 240, 300 to 75, 150, 225, 300. I was thrilled to see the Kunkka nerf.
Yeah, it hurt my soul a little, but it was needed. It basically all they did was they made the like Lanham build that people have been saying, the like Phase Boots Armlet Blink Dagger build on support. They made that way worse because now the old build is effectively the same. You're just a little worse at level 1 and nominally worse at level 3 or 4, depending on your skill build. But Torrent is still good for those builds, like the typical like Mana Boots Armlet, not Armlet, Jesus, Mana Boots Aether Lens Blink Dagger builds that we used to do on support Kunkka are now just that much better relative to the Lana build, because the Lana build you'd only have 1 point, and now 1 point Torrent builds are going to be way worse, and core Kunkka is like relatively unscathed.
So next up we see Echo Stomp, channel time increase from 1.2 to 1.3. So I saw a ton of Elder Titan. I'll shout out to Mr. Blue, wherever the hell he is out there listening about his Elder Titan, his precious Elder Titan. I saw that Echo Stomp a lot, and it makes a little sense that it gets a nerf. It's not a big nerf though. Do you think that's going to decrease the amount of Elder Titan we're seeing in the higher skill levels?
Nope, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to notice it like maybe in a game you'll dodge like 3 stomps that you wouldn't have otherwise. And like it's going to make a minor difference, but it's not, it's like what we were saying with other nerfs, right? It's not going to change the pick rate of the hero drastically. It just means you have 0.1 second of leeway, which actually matters a lot more than you'd think.
Yeah, well, I know I feel like I just barely miss dodging stomps whenever I do play against ETs.
And now you will.
So we've got Oracle base damage reduced by 6.
This sucks.
That sucks a lot.
This sucks.
I know everybody's been playing support. Wazoo, are you picking up Oracle at all?
I don't play Oracle. I don't even know if I have a game on him.
Honestly.
So,
now you definitely won't be picking Oracle. I'll tell you that much.
I like what he does. I liked, but I don't know. Like the base damage hurts him for sure. I never even saw the hero as something that was that good. Was he?
No, Oracle. Yeah. So Oracle's been key to all of these Huskar lineups that we're seeing. Now
I recall seeing him.
Yeah, I mean
with Huskar at times, and it's just interesting because all of his abilities and how they interact. I think they're kind of confusing as far as healing heroes go for a lot of support. So I kind of stick mostly to your Lions, Vengees. I play a lot of Wyvern lately on Ursi's. How his prowess has taught me that maybe I can take that and go somewhere with it.
I still have a 70% win rate with Wyvern.
You have 70?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Most of those games were good. When the ult was
I have a good time
OP.
with that hero just because you can do so much. The whole being able to traverse terrain quickly, etc., to board and all that. It's like she's a lot of different things in one.
She kind of starts with a Force Staff.
But Oracle, maybe Maybe I will try him out more, but I don't know. Maybe not now.
He's just a bad version of Omni Knight, honestly.
Yeah.
Like she's like a version of Omni Knight that's super complicated. And the only like value that he had over Omni Knight was that he was really good at zoning. Because Oracle has the fastest base attack time in the game, tied with Juggernaut, I believe. And it was like, 1.1 or something like that? I don't remember the exact number. But he had a super fast base attack time. So when you comboed his fast BAT with the fact that he was doing a decent amount of damage at levels, you could solo zone pretty much any offlaner with Oracle, with the exception of Tide. But nowadays, if you have a Stout Shield or especially a Poor Man's Shield, Oracle is going to like be tickling you and do nothing, right? So now Oracle cannot solo zone offlaners, which is a big hit to Oracle players, and I definitely won't be picking this hero nearly as much. Or at least you're going to have to diversify the heroes you're picking it with. Because if you pick like Oracle +1 Roamer, then like the Roamer is going to have to either contribute to zoning the offlaner and killing the offlaner, or you're just going to have to say, all right, well, the offlaner is going to get XP at least. So it sucks.
Yeah.
It's neat. The hero's way too good.
So let's see. We're on Morphling. Intelligence gain reduced from 1.5 to 1.1. So what are we looking at? What's 0.4 times 25? One of you guys lose 10 int by the end of the game.
Good.
Yeah, everybody's cool with that.
I hate Morphling.
He's a very strong hero in ways if you know how to play him. So I don't know. I can see that Valve is going to like be dialing him back a little bit, and I definitely think that hero needs it if Drow's going to get it too.
Yeah, and also you got to think the illusion attack damage against buildings nerf is going to hit him pretty hard too, because he naturally builds Manta, and he's going to have replicates, and ratting with replicates is a big deal now. So that's going to help. And also he's a natural Hurricane Pike builder or Dragonlance at least builder. So you have that nerf too. So he has 20 less health. So it's a lot of little things, but it's going to suck in those like earlier levels because I play a lot of Morphling, or not a lot, but I play Morphling, and you really notice it when like that's the equivalent of, let's say, like another couple points that you're not going to be able to shift because you're going to run out of mana that much faster, right? So,
right. I also like that it kind of lessens the effect of E-Blade. Like you have to build properly a little bit differently because you may not have the mana sources that you needed before.
Yeah, maybe you have to go Manta before E-Blade now. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. I'm not really a Morphling player, so I'm not 100% sure on the math on it, but I feel like if you go E-Blade, like you're saying, like you probably have to go Manta first. And I like that there's that slowdown because, like, man, if you're playing that 5 support, whether you're on a team or you're just soloing in a pub, that is like the most frustrating thing in the world to play like Crystal Maiden, be there like sacrificing for your team and then instantly dead no matter what you do for the rest of the game, like whenever you're anywhere near a fight.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that happened.
I'm with you. Amen, brother. So let's see. We got Starstorm Scepter cooldown increased from 8 to 9. That feels like barely a nerf at all.
Oh, yeah. It's another one of these like general toning down of items or skills, but it's not going to impact the fact that you still pick up the item, right? So it's just, it's a tiny bit worse. And also this is another skill or another thing that was nerfed last patch. So these are all compounding nerfs. Still really good though. Mirana like went from being a skill shot talent based hero to now it's like, oh, well, if you hit some arrows, good job. If you don't, oh, okay, well, you do 400 AoE damage every 8 seconds.
Jump on in there on your Tiger Beast and you just wreck them. It's interesting with this patch. I mean, the name of the patch could really just be like small changes, small nerfs, more or less. And the things that got nerfed.
And you get a nerf, and you get a nerf,
right,
and you get a nerf.
But what they did with some of these nerfs on these abilities is they left the level 4 the same. And so if it's a high priority skill, you still get to that value. But leading up to it, all those levels previous to it have then been nerfed. And that's an interesting way to look at the game and game balance in general, because the hero's still going to have that peak, but it's going to change the early game leading up to that considerably. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
I guess I was kind of expecting you guys to feel like maybe that was not enough of a nerf overall.
I think so, but I mean, I welcome any and all Mirana nerfs. Like I'm a terrible Mirana player, but I just played a pub round draft of it, and I hit an arrow every once in a while. But once I had Ags, I was just like moving around the map. I had free farm. Like I just randomly gold would appear in my pockets, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, I'm happy. And then I would just kill people because I just do AoE damage. I kind of, I don't know. Well, it is what it is. Yeah, this is fine though. Like honestly, this between last nerf, which was significant, and this nerf, which is it's like a 16% nerf effectively. We can consider it that way because it goes from 8 seconds to 9 seconds. It's welcome but not significant.
Fair enough.
I like it. I like when she gets her staff nerfed because personally I have the most my most played is Mirana, and like I kind of wish that they did something different than just make her an Ags hero. It gets really annoying when one of your favorite heroes just becomes, okay, you have to get Ags on this hero, otherwise you lose games.
Yeah, I guess I've never really looked at it from that perspective.
Land more arrows, newbie Flubb.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine on it landing the arrows. It's just the you have to jump in with freaking Blink Dagger and jump out. Like that style of play is meh. I want to just be in the
hit and run,
fighting
guerrilla style.
Yeah, I just want to like run in there and like beat everything up. Like,
yeah, Flubb is definitely not a jump in and jump out kind of player. He's a jump in kind of player.
Exactly.
And no one's left when you leave.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But
Or
I'm
he's just alone.
probably gonna die as well. But like everyone's going down with me. Like,
Yeah.
That's why Techie's like I should like that hero, but I like hate him and like him at the same time. There's a lot of love hate there. So.
I feel only pure white hot hatred for him.
Yeah, me too.
Same.
I can't stand anytime I see a Techie's picked on any team. My team, their team, any team.
And it's this weird negativity bias because all the techies on the other teams are always getting the triple kill, ultra kill shit. And mine are
Sure.
always like
It's the Pudge
putting
effect.
one bomb in the side shop and then they get seen and suicide and kill no one. And then the person walks over the one bomb. And
I have a Techie story for you later on. But I'm not going to do it now because we're 40 minutes in. So here we go. Time dilation. Wazoo, I'm going to jump to you on this one. So we got two, one kind of buff, one kind of nerf.
one just makes sense, though.
Time dilation now only freezes abilities that are on cooldown rather than also affecting abilities cast afterwards.
Because the whole point of that ability was to freeze cooldowns, right?
Right.
And so, like,
If it's not on
if
cooldown,
it's on you and your ability isn't on cooldown and you use your ability and the effect is still active, why would it freeze that other ability? So this is just.
I think you can make an argument either way, but
I think this
for
is
like
common
a
sense
lot. I mean, you were talking
sense
about logic
change.
in a fantasy game. You know what I mean?
But I think this makes more sense with the overall idea of Dota. I mean, you shouldn't. If you run into a void and you save your abilities out after he uses that, like you should be rewarded, like Ursi said. With that risk and reward relationship, he shouldn't just be able to jump on you and then freeze all your abilities no matter what.
Yeah.
And so that's my argument there. For the other void change,
Time dilation slow per frozen ability increased from 8 to 10, 8% to 10%.
yeah, I mean, and so they buffed it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit of a buff. So you basically there's a lot more reward if you can time that time dilation just right so that you're using it right when everything's off cooldown.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And
kind
it's
of
a
how
more
I took it.
skillful ability, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Ursi Flubb, thoughts?
I think exactly right. It has turned an ability that you would otherwise have just like thrown randomly into now a very high skill ability where you have direct, like, if you use this well, you're getting a 40% slow, and if you're using it poorly, you're getting a 0-second slow. Perfect. Makes the hero higher skill. Everything should be higher skill, more difficult, more punishing.
Yep. I mean,
Because
Dota, life is filled with, it's a cold place where there's no love and no fun.
Everybody knows Dota players
all
are
get
all
my
masochists,
rolling
so we
unit.
should all be happy.
Okay.
exactly. That's actually exactly what I was going to say, Ursi. That we are all like, we all want this horrible challenge of like trying to make. We want the game to like be soul crushing at a certain point. So
Oh, God.
make it harder
All right.
always.
Fair enough. So we get a Tempest double nerf here. Golden XP bounty increased from 140 to 160.
Gobble,
who
gobble
cares?
is all I can say. I'm going to gobble up all that gold. Arc, is he good anymore with that bounty? Like, what are you?
Dude, the Arc Warden is like god tier, honestly. He's so
Even
good.
still, with the bounty, I haven't even played him or played against him much at my skill level since
God.
that bounty's been.
Yeah, Arc Warden pickers are like the scum of the earth. There are a lot of like Arc Warden spammers. Fortunately, I've only run into a few because it's a hero that's very like singular. Like you either play it or you don't, and if you do play it, you play a lot of it. And we toyed around with it for our team. Proud plays a pretty good Arc Warden. We put it for the show a few weeks ago. The hero is still really, really good if you're good at him, and pretty terrible if you're not. But this is a nerf that like you're not going to notice at all. Like,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is how many. So one, how many Tempest doubles are you actually killing? Like, I don't feel like I kill that. Yes, you see them. Yes, they get killed, but I don't feel like it's like, oh man, that guy's feeding us his Tempest doubles all game. I never have that thought.
it's a difference of like at most, like let's say you're really good at killing Tempest doubles and the game is decently long. You've made like 100 gold extra, 200 gold, whatever. Yeah, sure, it's reliable, so that's extra value. But like, really, who cares?
Yeah. So I'm going to move on. Juggernaut base damage reduced by 2. I was kind of sad to see a Juggernaut nerf.
Good.
He kind of needs it as well. Like, he's still very strong. He's not the kind of hero that he used to be, where you just kind of picked him in one games no matter what, and people couldn't counter him, which he was a few patches ago. But this is getting him along the right path to being balanced. It's going to be a little harder to last hit with him. So, I guess like you can overcompensate in other ways. But yeah, I'm fine with it.
Means rushing your Quelling Blade is that much more important.
Right. Yeah,
Yep.
and that's exactly what I mean by what you can do to deal with that. Like, when you didn't have to really get it before and you could just go into something else, like you can, like, of course you should get it, but I mean, like, it wasn't, you could still last hit without it, but now it's probably like you should definitely get it sooner.
Yeah, you're more punished for doing like the build that Proud I think still does or has been doing is at start he goes Stout Shield, Tango, Salve, Mango. Now if you do that, you're delaying your Quelling Blade, so your first wave, maybe even first 2 waves, depending on your success, is going to be that much harder.
Yeah. And
So
we'll see the implications of that. I mean, maybe the hero will be more of a situational pick, but we'll see.
I don't know. I personally hated to see the nerf, but I doubt that it's going to. You're talking about two base damage. It's not going to increase that much.
Yeah.
It's not going to decrease his.
It's just the first couple waves.
So we got Counter Helix, which I love to see this. A little bit of a nerf, though. I mean, by level 4, no, not a nerf at all. Damage reduced from 90, 120, 150, 180 to 75, 110, 145, 180. So we see the biggest nerf coming at level 1.
My least favorite nerf in the entire set.
Oh,
Really?
see, I love this one.
Because the people who are going to jungle Axe to begin with are going to do it no matter what, and they don't care what you think. So they're going to be worse at it, and they're going to come out of the jungle with less items, less quickly. So we're going to be in a situation we're going to be 4v5ing longer.
Yeah, never mind. I agree with Flubb completely. I hate this nerf. This should have been buffed.
Okay, yeah, I now hate it too. I'm thinking of every time I've ever seen an axe go into the jungle, and now my life sucks a little
The
bit
jungle
more.
butterfly effect. It has implications throughout the entire game. Fucks everybody over equally.
I hope, like, over the course of doing this show for, like, another year or two, like, gradually we just make sure that not a single one of our listeners jungles.
Yes.
Like, and then we have Roland to appeal to those people, I guess. But,
Yeah.
like, God, yeah.
We could get
It's
a
actually,
McDonald's sign
God,
that
Flubb,
says-
you hurt my soul because you brought that argument up. Oh, God. Yeah. Also,
Wow.
like,
He's very convincing.
you got to think, like, even though this is only a 15-point nerf at level 1, but that's 15 points per unit, right? So, like, let's say you're killing centaurs at a medium camp, let alone a stack. That's now you're reducing 45 damage each spin, which is like half of an old spin, if you think about it that way, right? Because it's 15 damage per unit. So, it has larger effects than just doing 15 less damage, right? It's over time, it's a lot less damage.
Yeah. So repel cast point and repel cast point improved from 0.5 to 0.35, but the duration reduced from 6, 8, 10, 12 to 4, 6, 8, 10. That doesn't really. I mean, sure, yeah, it sucks that you don't have the extra 2 seconds, but I don't think anybody's going to pick Omni any fucking less.
Dude, like, honestly, I played an Omni game, and I think this is I 100% think this is a buff. Between the Diffusal change and this change, I think it was actually a team game, Flubb. Or it was like we were playing some duo queue or 3Q. And there were like probably 3 to 4 saves that I made that I would not have otherwise made just because of this cast point thing. It's kind of like Jakiro. Jakiro is the same as Omni, where Omni just has very long cast points, Underlord as well, and they're balanced around having really good abilities but low range and long cast points. So this is like almost a 33% cast point buff. If you go 0.15 off of 0.5 is a significant is really significant. Like, honestly, it makes a huge difference, especially on a low range ability like this one. It means that them outranging you is going to take that much longer. So I love this. Also, one of the biggest problems you have on Omni Knight all the time is that your repel is lasting too long, so you can't heal somebody. So in this mid to late game where that's actually an issue, once you're level 9, let's say, you are going to notice this, and you're going to be able to get more heals off, which means more damage and more healing. But people are going to have a little less repel. I think Slacks was bringing this up. Actually, it's a buff to good Omni players and a nerf to bad Omni players.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty nicely. So we're gonna take a look. We're gonna get through these as quickly as possible. We got relocate, delay increased from 2.5, 2.25, 2 to 2.7, 2.35, 2.
Pretty negligible, right?
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, it takes a little bit longer for IO to get you somewhere. Inner vitality bonus regeneration threshold reduced from 40% to 35%.
Not my boy.
Yeah. I put all information regarding Huskar just out of my mind instantly. I don't want to think about this hero. I don't want to do.
You have a
anything with it.
firewall or something, or a filter, I guess. That
Yeah.
just throws it all in the trash.
Honestly, the Oracle nerf is more significant than this as far as Huskar nerfs go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
Stifling dagger. This one hurt me a little bit.
That's great.
Stifling dagger cast range reduced from 1200 or a flat 1200 to 825, 950, 1075, 1200. I did notice this, especially when I started taking PA mid, or as I was taking PA mid. I felt like I noticed this a lot more. It was a little bit tougher to maybe zone my enemy mid. But at the same time, I'm still maxing dagger. I'm still getting those levels super fast mid, so I didn't really feel it as much. I wonder if I'll feel it more running safe, which I haven't really done with PA since this patch was released Sunday night. I think it was Sunday.
Yeah, this is just a reaction to the PA support that's been run a lot in the recent, as it would run PA4 with an Orb of Venom, and it was like the most cancerous thing in the entire world to lane against as a mid player, and it was even seen in pros. It was incredibly strong, and Icefrog clearly saw that and said, this is the absolute worst thing, and this was not intended, and then nerfed that right out of the park. Also, the other big thing is that now, like you said, mid, you're going to now want to be picking ranged mids, like long-range mids against PA, and it's actually going to have a noticeable effect on the laning phase.
Yeah.
And the other thing is now, if you have a wand or a stick against PA, you're going to be getting charges every single time until that is until she's level 7, compared to before where you'd be hit or miss and sometimes getting charges and sometimes not.
Yeah. That sucks. All right, Ursi. So
It was needed.
Please be quiet.
Almost entirely.
Please
100%
do not wish
needed.
terrible things on our mistress Phantom Assassin.
You know what I think
like
it should
the hero
do?
too.
How they should fix it is there's a 50-50 chance the pommel of the dagger hits him, like she fucks up the throat, and it just does a mini bash, like one
okay.
damage mini bash.
It only does the slow.
Yeah. And then that just like, ow, asshole, and half the time the dagger will hit with all effects.
Yeah,
So
boy.
flip a coin, boys.
I like that nerf better.
Sometimes dagger throws get fucked up if you ever thrown a dagger.
So Ricky Smokescreen slow was reduced from 25% to 19, 21, 23, 25%. So a gradual gain as opposed to just a flat 25%.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Ricky 4 spammers are like maybe more cancerous than PA 4 spammers.
Oh, you see, and I love both of those.
This roundtable has pretty much listened to Grandpa Ursi tell you how much better the good old days were.
It's not even that. Like, these heroes are legitimately good, and like I'm all for any way you can win. I'm just saying, like, Ricky 4 was way too strong before, and like they didn't even touch Tricks of the Trade, which is like the Ricky's really good still as a roaming.
Flubber, do you play Ricky as a 4 ever?
I do, and I also play like bounty and stuff. But like I take advantage of it, and I do enjoy it. But the thing is, like, I also hate playing against it because no one on your team will ever buy wards or dust for it when you're playing on solo pubs. So whenever I see like these heroes that are like really good pub stompy heroes, I getting a nerf. I appreciate it because, man, I just it used to be like Bloodseeker and stuff when he was good back in the day, and now it's like moving into like Invis heroes, and I mean Invis heroes were always like a pub stompy thing to begin with, but it just feels like there's too many pub stompers out there at this point, and like everything needs to be pulled back a little bit to like get back to the real game of Dota once again.
Fair enough. So we got track. Speaking of bounty hunter, track mana cost increased from 50 to 65. Relatively minor as well, right? I know I keep saying that, but that's the name of this fucking patch is relatively minor.
You'll notice it at like level 6 if you don't have mana boots yet. Like if you're having a bad time and not successfully winning ganks, but getting XP from lanes or whatever, like if you do offlane, like offlane soaking bounty hunter, you'll notice this if you don't have mana boots but do have track. Any other situation, who cares? Also, I mean, just pick up raindrops, and they'll last longer for you now.
So I want to talk about this one next coming up. This felt like maybe the most egregious of the nerfs from my perspective. Mana leak, mana cost increased from 75 to 150, a full doubling on that ability.
Timbersaw buff. Honestly, that's like the biggest deal of this entire thing.
Yes, it is for sure.
Which
I also want to say though that this is a big nerf to him, but I mean the next thing that goes down in the line, the whole illuminate idea, did get better. So it's like
blinding light.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's talk about those two real quick, just so we can kind of have the full conversation about poor Coddle. Illuminate radius increased from 350 to 375, so slight buff there. Blinding light knockback distance increased from 400 to 525. I see that as we mentioned that with the Omni Knight. This might be a buff to good Coddle players and a nerf to bad Coddle players, sort of a thing.
Yeah. It makes Coddle require more levels, and it's going to change how you level up the hero's skills. Because now you're going to have to prioritize Chakra Magic more, because you're going to require double the mana every time you're casting Mana Leak.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think it's going to result in Coddles and pubs who aren't getting mana to heroes who might better utilize it, because they're going to favor themselves. I think this is going to be. I think this is in response to the pro scene, like where we were definitely seeing Coddle, like you guys mentioned, like wreck Timbersaws, and I admittedly was doing that. Like I was picking Coddle in response to Timbersaws in our pubs.
Oh yeah.
And you can say that the blinding light buff and the illuminate buff are nice, but I don't know, this fucking Timbersaw, dude. Fuck Timbersaw.
Honestly, yeah. That hero was also barely touched, as we'll get to like in a moment.
But he's afraid of trees, man. You got to kill all the trees. Like that's always
best motivation. Best character motivation in all of Dota.
Yeah,
because it makes sense. The anxiety is real to me.
God,
and they are everywhere.
I have some kind of like scarring experience because of this patch with Timbersaws that go mid or off lane and have reactive armor against melee or against physical damage lineups, and they just cut the wave, and you can do nothing because he has like 18 regen passively at level 3.
Just
you can't take it off because it's unpurgeable, and he always has creeps hitting him. Oh god, Timbersaw is like he's just that much harder to deal with now.
And so yeah, all right. I'm gonna we'll do the Sand King buff last, but just to mention the Timbersaw base strength or nerf. Sorry, Timbersaw base strength was reduced by 1. It was the change that we saw to Timbersaw, and we see this massive nerf, in my opinion, to one of his best counters. And I feel like Timbersaws run rampant in pubs, and it's fun to play them, especially against the right lineups, like you mentioned, like against high physical damage lineups. He's a blast to fucking play. I don't know, this feels wrong to me.
I agree.
We'll hopefully see more in the next patch, and that's just probably them getting an idea of like a barometer where they can just like kind of test that, bump it down a little. See if it's still a problem. If it is, go from there.
It is still it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You're going to pick up Coddle, and he's going to be able to do it half as much as he used to, and it's gonna fuck you at some point. It's going to.
Timbersaw was irrelevant for a really long time, and he's a fun hero to watch and play. And he's high skill levels, so people like watching it and people like playing it. So I think people are happy that the hero's back now, and he's like a legitimately viable pick in many games. But he is way too strong in certain games. I will say that much. And especially with the hood build. Oh my god.
Okay. All right. I'm done getting angry about it. We're on the last one here, folks. And just in time to maybe even wrap this thing up in under an hour. So Sand King movement speed reduced by 5.
Rip. Dead hero.
Yep.
I'm just kidding. Sand King is the god hero. Flubb can
You're not supposed to be walking anyway. You should be burrow striking everywhere you go with your eggs.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Flubb?
Of course. But like in the beginning, just like everything, I actually feel like this patch should be saying in the beginning we're gonna hurt you a little bit, because like once again in the beginning that 5 move speed actually does matter if you're going for like a smoke gank or something. But as time moves on, like you guys said, I mean, he has so much movement potential with Blink, with Ags, with Aether Lens. It's just insane. So, yep, not that big a deal.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go around the room, and we're going to do one last minute from everybody. Wazoo, you got 1 minute to tell us the rest of your thoughts.
You guys will already know this, but when we're recording, I just found out that as we've been recording this, the next major is going to be the Boston major.
Oh, no shit?
Yeah, no shit.
Oh, nice.
In Boston.
Is that true?
Actually going to go look it up. It was just posted on Reddit while we were actually filming this, or shooting this.
That's so close to me.
Yeah, I know. So, I mean, everyone was thinking it was going to be somewhere else because we just had the International in Seattle, but it's going to be at the Wang Theater in Boston. So
badass. I'm really glad that you found that out. Should make sure to mention that on Try Hard Tuesdays, which we're recording out of order this week. So,
we already did it, but then we took a time machine ahead of the time that we recorded this and recorded that.
Flubb, 60 seconds.
So I just want to try to reiterate that obviously this patch isn't too big of a deal, but once again, like if I can get to the people who play jungle and play Axe, please stop. Like he is now a laning hero, and you are going to be severely hurt by this. If you're going to try to prove me wrong, please do it outside of ranked so that you don't hurt other people. That's fine. But like this patch and every patch that hurts junglers, it feels like they're the people who want to like outprove everyone else that, oh, I can still do this. And I get that mentality. I do that with Ursi all the time. So like, don't worry about it, but do it outside of ranked and then tweet me about it. That's fine.
Fair enough. Ursi, 60 seconds.
I'm excited for Boston Major because I can actually like go to that one compared to being in EU or China.
Yeah, when is it? Did they announce the dates?
I don't know.
You can't
December
take
7th to 10th.
You have your own thing.
And it's presented by PGL, and PGL is dope. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Wazoo. Yeah, I am co-opting your thing. No, I mean, I'm just hurt like emotionally that Timbersaw wasn't nerfed more. Iron Talon is the dumbest thing that's ever happened to Dota, despite the fact that it has some good effects on the overall metagame. And Omni Knight should not have been buffed like this, or like
Not like this.
It's just like the hero has such an absurd win rate. Like, go to Dota Buff right now, you kind listener or show host or whatever you are. Look at Omni Knight and look and just see how absurd his win rate is in every bracket. Like now even pros are playing him. This hero is so dumb, honestly.
I got a nerf for Timber. Timber removed from Sawsuit is now as strong as Small Camp Creep.
Fair enough.
Different hero.
Yeah, I like it. I don't have any 60 seconds on it because you know what, folks, this patch was it was the look under your seat, everybody. Yep, everybody's getting a nerf. That's what it felt like.
Buff Lena. That's my next comment.
Oh yeah. All right. Fair enough. I'll let you have some of my 60 seconds and say Lena deserves a buff, but she did make an appearance in I think it was the grand finals of MDL. So
Yep. We picked it for him. We may or may not be playing her on Thursday. I'll tease that. I think the hero sucks, but I like her a lot, so I'm gonna play her.
yeah. Well, good for you. You know, you keep trying to bring the Lena back.
And the raindrop change probably helped Lena, maybe?
A little bit, surely. Right? A little bit.
I don't know.
We'll see. You report back next week. Let me know. All right. I'm going to plug a few things. DefenseThePatients.com. Check out our Patreon, which is being reworked right now. Me and Ursi have been talking with Mr. Blue about that. We're coming up with new goals, new concepts, and I think Flubb and Wazoo will be all the .p show hosts will be tossing a few ideas at us here soon. We've got, of course, iTunes, Stitcher, all your favorite podcast apps. Twitter's @.p_show. If I missed that one, defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. And tonight, if you were listening to this Wednesday during the day, tonight are our in-houses. Check us out at twitch.tv/.ptv1. You can also find us on YouTube, youtube.com/.ptv. No, Twitch is twitch.tv/.ptv. YouTube is .ptv1, right? Right, guys?
Right. Twitch is .ptv. The YouTube is .ptv1.
Yes. You know, I've only said it a million times. Why shouldn't I fuck it up? So I think that's going to be it. Yeah, be sure to tune into those tonight. Thanks to Growdy, Blackheart, Fafnir, AG, Zach Dudek, and Wivrix, and a number of .p community members who really helped keep that thing floating, keep that
And
thing
Jay
moving.
Gucci.
And Jay Gucci. Oh yeah, then check out the subreddit. Defense of the
Meme
Patience
master.
is our subreddit. So, all right. I miss anything? You guys good?
Boston Major, baby. Boston.
Yeah, that was terrible. you have 1 week to work on your Boston accent and report back. So,
All right. My boy's wicked smart.
I want you to redo all of Axe's dialogue in a Boston accent by next week.
Good axe
that's
hunting.
the new goal.
I don't want to see you doing this jungle creep in 10 years. You should be in a lane.
If I come back to this jungle and you're not there, I'll be happy. It's only funny to like the 15 people that remember Good Will Hunting out there.
Hey,
all
it's
right.
a great movie.
That's going to be it for us, folks. So until next time, this is Cyphus for Wazoo, for Flubb with 2 B's, and Ursi saying good luck and Godspeed.